Orange team.
Hey guys, I'm Bob.
I'm Mike.
And this is the Board Game Rundown, and today we're going to review Terracotta Army. This is a worker placement game for 2 to 4 players. It plays in about 90 to 120 minutes, and that's pretty accurate, although depending on who's playing with you, the AP can get you.
Can.
Yep. So in this game, what we're going to do is we're going to go over a quick summary of how to play. We'll go over our thoughts on the components, and then our final thoughts, and at the end, we're going to give it a final rating. So let's jump into how we play. You're going to start off with a bunch of these little tiny workers, and the main crux of the game is going to be this wheel over here. And you're going to be placing your little workers around the outside of the wheel, and you're going to start taking the actions that are listed there, starting at the inside and working your way out. And you'll be doing things like gaining clay. You can take actions to take your clay that has dried out to re-wetten it so you can use it. Gaining money. There's an action on there that turns your little guy into a big guy, which allows him to go other places and keeps spaces from being blocked from other people's little people. On the middle ring, you have options like all these different masters over there. There's 6 different masters that you can pay money to train with, and they'll let you do various types of things like building extra people, activating the inner ring an additional time. You'll be able to move these inspectors, which we'll go over later on. You can, guys that just give you clay or help you keep clay wet. As you are building guys with your clay, you'll be adding dried clay to these huts, and so one of the masters will allow you to take those stacks of dry clay. And finally, there's a blacksmith who will ready all of your weapons. And the little weapon things are useful because on the outside ring, you've got the option to build these scoring statues over here. And these guys, depending on what weapon you flip and how much money you pay, you'll be recruiting these different guys that are going to score in various types of ways, either at the end of each round or at the end of the game. And there's actually a really good breakdown in the book how each of those work and function. Other than that, also when you're building, these regular army guys here, the warriors, you'll be choosing the style that you want. You'll be earning the victory points listed. And then if you have the appropriate weapon chip flipped over, you can activate their little ability, which there's a little iconography breakdown of it on the side of the box. But again, it's also listed in the book very clearly on what they do.
And you can see it from this angle.
Yep, you can see it on all sides there, so it's kind of nice. But then you're going to choose where you want to put it. And that's going to be important because each round, different things are going to score. Either a certain quadrant will score, a certain row or column is going to score, or they're just going to score who has the most of a certain type of warrior in the army. And then also, these guys here that we talked about earlier will be moving up and down these tracks, and they'll be scoring for the rows and columns that they're in. They are the inspectors. And that's the pretty basic gist of how the game is played. There's some other small nuances and minutia, but we're not going to go into all the details. That's not a how to play. It's just a brief overview.
Yeah, just to kind of tidy up that, you're essentially playing the best of 5 rounds, or you're playing 5 rounds, placing all of your workers out
each round.
And then you're going to score certain places on the board based on where the inspectors are. And some of these gray neutral guys will produce scoring as well. But then there's a big final scoring at the end where these guys score based on directional, like everyone around him, every line and column of warriors by this guy. So not to go in super detail because we'd be here all day talking rules, but just 5 rounds, everybody uses all their workers, and most of your scoring is done from the main board.
Yeah, yep. And it does give a dominance and a presence score. So if you have dominance, you'll earn more points, and as long as you have somebody there as presence, you'll get something out of it.
Yep. So check the rules, watch how to plays on how to play.
Yeah.
That we're mainly here to review this game.
Yep. So let's go into our components. I really like a lot of these components. I like how you go from like the little meeples to the bigger ones, and then how that like also opens up additional like worker placement spots for you. This aerial area aspect of it is super interesting, and trying to game the systems on making sure you got enough people around that guy to make it worth building. Or, oh, look, somebody built this guy. It's going to count that row. Let me build a bunch of extra guys in that row. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that.
Yeah, it's interesting how you're building these, but they're not just for you. Everyone scores on them.
Everybody.
And we'll get more into that final thoughts, because that's the major part of the game, is what you build into the mausoleum, they call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the components, I mean, I thought maybe the little workers could be a little bigger. Like, I mean, they are so
Super
dinky.
small.
And it's not like you need a lot of space here. I just think they could have been a little bit bigger and still smaller than these. Mild complaint.
I kind of think that it makes it more of a contrast to make it easier to tell.
Maybe
so,
it is.
Is that the small one? Let me hold it
True.
up. If it was a little bit closer, it might not be as easily to distinguish.
The miniatures are all really cool.
Yeah.
The miniatures are all great, to be honest.
And this box that it holds them in,
That's awesome.
It's fantastic, right? So like when you're done, you flip them over, they flip upside down, and you don't bend. They don't, you can paint them.
Store them
Yeah, you
that
actually
way.
store them in there. Yep, and then they kind of stand up so you can see which one's which.
I like any component where I can just take it out of the box, set it on the table, and I'm done setting up that part of the game. That's fantastic. Because it would take forever to get all those little warriors set up.
Oh, here's that bag of warriors. I'd probably just dump them.
I would dump them.
But the thing is, though, is then you can't tell how many points they're worth because they're worth fewer and fewer points the more they get built.
Yeah, so that box is awesome.
Yeah, it's a great.
The little things
bases?
to put underneath the squares works perfectly
good.
fine. They're easy to snap on and off. I'm typically, and we've made a lot of jokes off the cuff about brown boards and art, but I like it here.
Yeah,
I
it
do.
Fits. It's the clay and the earthy and the terracotta
fits
of
the
it.
theme. Although I think there's a disconnect, and you could say this about a lot of games, between the art on the box and the art on the board, because I really like this art.
Like realistic.
Yeah. And these guys are more cartoon type drawings.
Yeah, a little bit.
Small weird observation, not a con. This
is
guy
awesome.
here. Yeah. So this is the crux of the game here. We didn't get into this, so let's just do it now.
Sure.
But you're going to resolve this, moistening all your clay and then becoming first player. But before your turn starts, you can spend 2 gold to slide this one this way. Or you could spend 2 gold to slide this one this way.
Yeah.
And so instantly somebody does that before your turn, and what you thought you were going to be able to do.
Wrecks everything.
Yep. Nope, that's not what you're
Because
going
they
to
only
be able to
spin
do.
one way and they spin opposite directions.
Yes.
So where they thought you were lined up, now they're like so far apart, there's no way you're getting it back together again.
This worker placement system here is the component.
Yep.
I like when a component is also a mechanic.
Yeah.
And that's what we have going on here. It's an awesome mechanic and a great component that the 2 layers spin in the middle.
Agreed.
Love that.
I think the weakest component, the inspectors.
That happens all too often.
Technically, if you look at this picture, they're supposed to be with this top part up, but they're so top heavy
then it would be worse.
they kept falling over and everything. So so we flip them upside down, so it's a little bit more stable, but not a lot.
Thematically, I don't know what that is supposed to be.
It's got to be something related to. I haven't done any research into the Terracotta
I know,
Army.
because otherwise I'd be like, why can't it be a shape that's not top heavy?
Because Mike, like if you go there and you actually look, they have those types of things
stands
there.
for. I know.
But yeah, that's a very. It was a weird choice. If it is not specifically related to this, then it was a very odd choice.
Yes, please give it a base. That's wider than the rest of it.
Yeah, but that's pretty minor.
It's minor.
Yeah, because I think it fell over on us one time. We're like, oh crap, what space was it on? Like, well, I moved it once and you moved it once, and it's the 3rd turn, so we'll count those spaces up, and it should be here.
Since we're on components, I did want to say I didn't think the iconography for certain things was the best.
Yeah.
Like, I think this iconography is okay.
Strong.
Flip all
The
these
weapons,
over.
yep, that's
move your
strong.
inspector. Double the middle. Pay based on what round it is to get a soldier out. But the soldiers where the iconography is a bit lacking. First of all, this thing indicates victory points.
And it's nowhere
I
on the
don't
victory point
see
track.
that anywhere.
They could have put that on the 0 spot or something, so anywhere. But yeah, it's nowhere.
In the corners.
It's like a little dragon. It is on the 100+ point
but
thing.
it just multiple times I saw that icon and I'm like, what is that again? Oh, that is points.
Yeah.
And even the iconography for the bonuses you can get out of those soldiers.
Right.
I kept
It's
having to
very
use the
abstracted.
reference, and I've played this twice, and I still needed the reference for every soldier.
Well, except for the one that says 2 coins. That one's super obvious.
He's easy.
And the crossbow guy, you just know that you count all the empty spaces in
Far
between.
away from stuff.
The other 2 are kind of like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But I mean, you can kind of tell this side box here is not too bad because it is a picture of this, and it's got arrows on either side.
Yeah.
But
and again, from our side angle cameras, you can see the icons I'm talking about here. It's those.
Probably a bit small to read on there.
Yeah,
on their
but
phones.
that's Yeah, I feel like that they could have included player aids for this game.
That was the other thing too. So I did make some copies. Oh, I don't have a mobile thing over there. But I made some copies of some of the pages, and they do have good things like, oh, Masters, see page 17. So they do a good job of like breaking everything down in the book or telling you where to go to find stuff. Like that's not my issue. My issue is it's only in the book, and even like for the in between round scoring thing, it's only in the book. So having like a nice spot or like even like a quick reference on the back where it talked about what order to do the scoring and stuff in, I feel like that would have been super helpful.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had to like keep the book out the whole time. Maybe just like a tarot card or a smaller normal size card that has this stuff broken down again, and then the end of round scoring would have been helpful.
Player aids would have been great, especially for mid-round scoring, which we'll get to in final thoughts, because you spend a lot of time scoring in this game.
Yeah, been kind of bogged down a bit.
But yeah, components are pretty good though.
Yep. So Mike, what are your final thoughts on this?
I enjoy this game. The base mechanic worker placement game. I've said many times that I've cooled a bit on worker placement games. I want to see some things do something a little bit different. And I think this game does. I like this mechanic of I put these basic workers down. I can spin this stuff to get a different combination of actions. So I can totally change that up. I like that I can upgrade the worker to get a big one. And now my big one could go here. So it opens up more flexibility on your turn. This little thing in the mausoleum is the game, though, and this is cool. I don't know what to call this mechanic I'm seeing in more games, but building adjacency, like Foundations of Rome does it, Lords of Vegas does it. It's not what you build, it's what you build next to.
Yeah.
In this game, it's, are you building around this guy? Because every one of those slots is going to score. Are you building in a row or a column from this guy? Because that's going to score. Are you building this guy and putting him in front of your guys? Because that's a tiebreaker, and they're worth points at the end of the game.
Yep.
This whole mechanic is very, very interesting. I also, these things, I'll let you get into more detail on those if you would like, but this placement adjacency thing plus the spinning wheel of worker placement spots makes a really interesting puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like I do enjoy the even though I put something out, somebody else could score points off of it kind of a thing, because then I can let you build something like, ooh, thanks, Mike. Like that's always super nice. I do wish that like you're only allowed to move the circles once. You pay 2 coins, you can move one of them one time, that's it. And I get like, oh, I don't want to have a bunch of money. Somebody could just totally do the same action every time if you have enough money, right? Just keep rotating them both. I get you don't want to allow that, but I think it would be nice to maybe you could do each one time. So at least then like, you can a little bit more creativity with the action spaces, but the being able to switch it up even just that little bit is super cool. So your action spaces are never the same each time. Some of the masters that can be super powerful, like that guy who lets you do the inner ring twice, and then you go on one of those cheap builds or like the gain 4 money thing, and then you can either cha-ching, cash in and gain a bunch of money, or you can gain a bunch of clay, or you're going to build 2 guys right away. And if you have that lined up also with one of the outer ring ones where you can build one of those guys, you can really like put out a bunch of points that, like in one turn. I really like that.
Yeah, he's talking about this one, and this is a perfect example where build a soldier for 2 clay.
Right.
Activate this guy, which allows you to do the middle one again.
Yeah.
So now you're getting the cheapest return for soldiers out.
But if it was turned like that too, then that one on the outside lets you build one of these guys too. So yeah, that could really start to add up.
Or like if you've got this one there and you're pulling 8 clay on one turn,
that's a lot of clay.
Being able to utilize this guy with a useful inner ring is super fulfilling.
Yep. Yep. And then one of the things when we first played this that we kept forgetting to do, so I just want to point it out again, when you do use the inside ring actions to build the warriors, make sure you keep adding 1 dried clay in that quadrant you're in to the appropriate hut, because otherwise that one of those masters becomes totally useless, because his ability is to take 2 of those stacks and add them to your supply. And if people are starting to build a lot of those things, that can really add up. You can end up taking one move that's going to get you like 8-10 clay.
So these build up as you go, and then that one guy says, take all the dried clay from 2 depots, and what you had like 12 dry clay at one point, and then you go use the pot. Ta-da! I got 12 wet clay now.
Yeah. Where's that double build guy again?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But they do have like, so the way the masters work though is like you have these little guys and they're numbered 1 through 6 with the coins on there, and so basically you're paying money to send like apprentices out to go work with these masters, and you can do a couple of them for super cheap. But if you the more and more and more and more you start to send out there, the more expensive it's going to get. So you really got to kind of, budget friendly or pick certain ones to do in the right order to try to make it so you have money to do the rest later.
Yeah, it's like when you have extra money, you kind of want to buy the more expensive one you
Right.
can afford.
I had the 5 to spend now.
So if you don't have coins later, you're not screwed and you can't use one of these.
Yep, correct. And they do have like a end of turn ability. Each one of the masters is either going to gain you a coin or it's going to help you keep some of your clay wet, which is helpful.
Very useful.
Yeah.
Yep.
But no, like I really enjoyed the storage box thing that it comes with. I think that's super neat. There is a ton of the tiles as far as the scoring for each round. That marker is a little weak, that little half moon thing, like that marks what round it is.
It's just really small.
Yeah, that's kind of lame. But
yeah, I mean,
other than that, just small little nitpicky things. But I really enjoy like this worker placement aspect of the wheel spinning. That's something I've been doing a lot of lately, and I've been enjoying that. And I always love like a spatial like puzzle that you're also trying to figure out. And so those combinations, it can run a little long. But other than that, because it's hard to plan your turn ahead of time, because so one move of the dial and you're like, God, I got to recalibrate.
That's part of what brings the score down for this for me, and I'll wait for scores. But yeah, it's hard not to AP in this game. You can try to plan when it's not your turn, but then the person to your left can move one wheel, and now you've got a whole series of actions you got to rethink.
Yep.
Then the next person moves a wheel. You got to rethink your turn all over again. It's like you want to plan when it's not your turn, but it becomes a tactical game. It's a tactical game mixed with long-term strategy. I got things I want to accomplish, but the way I'm going to do it is going to change based on what people before me have done.
Yeah.
Because as soon as that wheel moves, your planning is gone.
Yep.
So that makes it tricky to plan, and it goes long because of that. 2 hours, we had a 3-player learning game, and we were closer to 2.5 for 3.
Right.
Now, one player AP'd more than the others,
Yep.
but it's impossible not to AP on this game because your options change right before your turn often.
We won't say his name, Mike.
Yeah. Well, I do it too. We all did on this game. You can't.
It's hard to.
You can't, but you know what I mean. He APs more than we do, but we all did.
We all do.
You can't not.
Yep.
So that's our final thoughts. Let's go ahead and get to our score.
So, Mike, how do we do our scoring?
All right. So since I'm in Dan's seat, I get to tell you that we're each going to give it a score. We're going to average them together, and that's going to be our board game rundown score. That's what we give on BGG, Discord, anywhere you want to know the BGG score for the rundown.
All right.
Good save, huh?
Good save.
Okay, so my score. You didn't ask, but I'll just jump right into it. This is an 8 for me.
Okay.
I think this is a very solid game. I like the puzzle that it gives me. You know, the way that this wheel works along with how I'm building my guys and why I'm building my guys and generating the resource to get those guys out there. I really do enjoy those mechanics. I love the puzzle that this puts in front of me. What makes this not go as high is that it does run long.
Sure.
You know, with 4 players, I don't see how you'd get this under 3 hours. It would be very hard to play this in under 3 hours with 4 players. And it's like, man, when you get to that 3-hour territory, I kind of start thinking of big epic games. Right. And this is a good game, but it's not a big epic game.
Sure.
So that 3-hour time frame brings it down for me. But I like the mechanics. And the other thing, too, the big one is the scoring part.
Yeah.
And there's so much math to the scoring. And I get it. Every game's got a little bit of math and scoring. But just to give you an idea, okay, at the end of the game, we're going to count up every guy that's adjacent to him. At the end of the game, we're going to have all of these out. So then you got to count up every soldier that's adjacent to him, every soldier that's next to him, every soldier that's next to him, and every soldier that's next to him.
Plus, don't forget you score the groups. So when there's at least 2 warriors of the same type together, that's going to start to form a group. And then all the ones that are connected orthogonally constitute a group. Everybody depending on how many players have units in those groups, each unit is going to be worth that many points. So if we each have a guy in this group, if Mike had a spearman, he only had one of your bases, Mike. This would then be a group of 3. There are 2 of us in there, so each of these guys are going to be worth 2 points. So he's going to score 2 points. I'm going to get 4 points. And then you also score for like dominance. And so it's there's just a lot going on at the end of the game to try to make sure you score.
Plus, all of these guys are going to score from him.
Plus, they all score from
and
that.
anybody's going to score off of him.
Yeah,
so then
scoring a ton of points.
You get a bunch of those out of there, and now you've got to count every row and column where they're at.
Yeah. It could be a lot to score.
There's just a lot to score, and you have to do a little bit of scoring at the end of every round, which isn't bad. But when you get to final scoring, you're going to spend like 15 minutes adding up all the scores.
It's pretty accurate, 10 to 15.
Bogs things down a bit. It's like you get to the culmination and like, is there a grand finale? No, we're just adding up points for 10 to 15 minutes. So it's not like that awesome finish that you would want in a game that's 3 hours long. But I still enjoy it. I like these mechanics, and 8 is still a great score. Those are just my few cons.
Yeah. I pretty much agree with everything you said. Although to me, like 3 hours I don't feel like it overstayed its welcome. I still enjoyed what I was doing for the length of time I was doing it, so I'm not going to knock it for 3 hours. Although when you do start to get to that 3 hour mark, there are a lot of other worker placement types of games that I would rather play that do feel more epic and whatnot. You know, but I also really enjoy all the different ways that you can score points in here because I was so far behind for the first couple of rounds, and those last 2 rounds I caught all the way up and won because I was able to just throw guys out strategically in the right place. So in the final scoring, I was able to just take over and get a bunch of points, and like I like the coming from behind like that, and the being able to do that. So it's not like a runaway leader.
On the other hand, I think if somebody really capitalized on that, you could have a runaway leader. Like if people don't counteract. But I think it's easy to see where people are getting their points from.
Right.
Like
start copying them.
Yeah. Well, I'll just start putting my guys around this guy.
Yeah. Or in these rows and columns with those guys.
Yeah, or this round, this row is going to score. So let me load up on guys here. There's ways to counteract people scoring for sure.
But all that being said, I'm going to agree with Mike and give it an 8 because like I said, I do enjoy what it's doing. I don't feel like it overstayed its welcome. I think maybe with the right group of people, you can keep that time under 2 hours. But like I said, it's the AP you got to be careful of, and you just got to try to keep people moving. Like I know it's not what you thought it was going to be, but these are your choices. Make one, right? There's only 12 or whatever it is. Yeah, that's right, 12. Pretty good guess.
It was.
So if you take our 2 scores, put it in the fancy math machine, it's an 8. So
it's a good score.
Yeah,
it's a solid game.
It's a solid game. Solid game. So and even the rule book's in good shape. I like that.
What did you think of that rule book? Other than like,
it's not bad. Like it's like I said, it's got a great breakdown of each of the different like people and what they do and what all the icons mean. The order is a little weird, but they do a good job of saying like go to this page or check this out, you know. So it's not bad.
It's not enough stuff on the back page.
And not enough stuff on the back page. They could have like squished it a little bit and added the scoring reference on there, and then that would have solved the issue of having to keep the book open to do the scoring. So, but minor issue.
Solid game.
Yeah, solid. All right. So this has been the Board Game Rundown. This has been Terracotta Army. Thanks for watching. Make sure you find us on Discord. Watch the Whiskey Wednesdays that Mike likes to host. And we'll catch you next time. I've been Bob.
I was Mike. See you next time.